Governor Andrew Cuomo, early on in the pandemic, got a lot of good vibes for his response to the pandemic. And now we're in a very different time because some of what his administration did in regards to apparently covering up thousands of deaths is starting to get more coverage. So let's catch up on some of what's been revealed in the investigations that have apparently been launched. He's facing mounting challenges to his leadership as state lawmakers threaten to strip him of the power to issue emergency orders, and federal investigators have scrutinized his administration's handling of nursing home data. We found out that the FBI and the US Attorney for the Eastern District of New York have opened an inquiry into his handling of nursing homes during the pandemic. It's not currently known whether the inquiry, which was confirmed by 3 people familiar with the matter, was focused on him or any individual, only that it's in its earliest stages, although based on the evidence that's come out so far, that's something to keep your eye on. The investigation moved back into the public spotlight in recent weeks after revelations that Cuomo's administration had given the public and state lawmakers an incomplete accounting of the number of deaths at nursing homes and assisted living facilities. In recent weeks, the administration revealed that 15,000 long-term care residents had died, up from the 8,500 previously disclosed. So let's pause there. That is very, very, very off. That is a huge number of additional deaths. It's not a rounding error. That's not, we forgot to cross our T's. That is a very different overall appearance of how this entire thing was handled. And so I can see why this is becoming such a big scandal for him. That is not a small thing.
I mean, it's a huge thing, but what should have also been huge in terms of backlash and national media coverage was the fact that in the early stages of the pandemic, Governor Cuomo continued to advocate for and succeed in gutting funding for the state's Medicaid system. Cuts to the Medicaid system when a pandemic is ripping across the country and leading to, at this point, 500,000 Americans dying. He couldn't have predicted it would be 500,000 Americans when he did it in the early stages of the pandemic, but it doesn't matter. He knew the pandemic was severe. He knew that there are people in this country, particularly in high cost states like New York, that don't have the means to provide themselves with health insurance. He knows that people are gonna lose their employer provided health insurance as a result of closures and layoffs and furloughs. So it's not surprising to me that he did this. Governor Cuomo was never what he was branded as in the beginning of this pandemic. Governor Cuomo has been far more conservative than some of the corporate Democrats that we're highly critical of. So congratulations to waking up to who Cuomo is. This is who he is. Again, that red flag, that was a huge deal in the beginning of the pandemic, and it barely got any attention. The only news organizations that covered it were independent news organizations on the left. Other than that, everyone else was just kind of like applauding him because, sorry, I know I'm going on and on, but I do want to really drive home this point. Because the Trump administration was so awful in responding to the pandemic that his failure, Trump's failure, helped to whitewash the failures of governors across the country, particularly Democratic governors like Cuomo. So it's just infuriating when people think that, if we have a president as awful as Trump, that'll make people wake up to the fact that we need someone who champions progressive policies. No, it doesn't work that way. All Trump did was really whitewash some of the horrendous governance that we were complaining about before Trump was even a thought in our minds regarding being in the government,
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think also Trump being so bad might have led some people to believe, he's the problem on governance with the pandemic. Everyone else, therefore, must be much better and trustworthy. And I think that affected how people evaluated things like Cuomo during the early stages of the pandemic. And I think it's also leading some of them to just assume that Biden's gonna do the right thing and we don't need to really keep any tabs on it. When that is not necessarily guaranteed. I think you're right that he turned out to be more conservative in this area. I also think he turned out to be far more concerned with his public image. I think he loved the boost to his approval ratings. Dude wrote a book about their handling of the pandemic when thousands of people are still dying every day around the country. Maybe you could wait until it's afterward. It's not like you're halfway up the beaches of Normandy. You're like, oh, I gotta get this down. People are gonna want to know. Like, no, hold on. We were still dealing with this, buddy. But
No,
if you can publish that.
You gotta respect the hustle, John. You gotta don't let a good crisis go to waste. Come on.
Exactly. And then so hiding this information now, they're gonna say, for instance, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. A top aide, Melissa DeRosa, was recorded last week admitting that the administration had purposefully withheld the data in the face of an investigation by the Trump Justice Department that it feared would be politicized, that the Justice Department would use this against them. Well, look, I don't know exactly if that's we are worried it'll be used against us, or Cuomo is worried it'll be used against him. But whichever it is, I don't care if you think it's gonna be used against you. It's the truth. How novel that the Trump could be attacking its enemies for things that are accurate and actually happened. You don't get to hide deaths just so Trump will leave you alone. That's not how it works. We need to know how bad it is. So yeah, I'm sure more about this is gonna come out. It looks terrible. What?
No, just one final thing about it. I'm amazed that they thought that that would be a good response or a good excuse, because all it reads to me was, we were very scared of Trump, so we hid the numbers like that. Oh, you guys are cowards? You guys would rather lie to the American people. You'd rather lie to your constituents than face a tweet from Donald Trump. I mean, it's pretty pathetic, but you're right. Cuomo's only worried about his own image.
Totally. What kind of defense is that? It's like, why did you hide the body? Well, I thought the cops would use it against me. Okay, I get that. I get that train of thought. It's not okay though, and you should keep it to yourself because you sound insane. Anyway, so we're gonna see what's gonna happen with Cuomo. I'm sure that he, up until very recently, probably thought he was gonna come rocketing out of this pandemic and run for president in 4 years. Hopefully, an accurate accounting of what he actually did and didn't do will kneecap those political aspirations, but we'll have to see.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.